We do not have a personal or business relationship with this individual. Those 12 words represent a billionaire real estate tycoon publicly disowning his son, and today, we're going to talk about how we got here. Donald Bren, one of America's most private and most powerful real estate developers, just severed ties with David Bren, his 33-year-old son, over what reporters are calling a massive scam. The alleged scam was an opportunity to invest in a luxury private men's club called The Bunker, but apparently the promise of this club was just a front. The club never actually existed. In court filings, David is accused of selling fantasy membership packages, access to Ferraris, Bugattis, rare cigars, private events. He pitched this as the ultimate man cave for the ultra-rich, promising exclusivity for the wealthiest guys around the world, but red flags started waving early with delayed launches and bounced checks. Today, let's talk about how David Bren allegedly weaponized his family name. Let's talk about exactly what it is that he did wrong, and of course at the end of the video we'll dive into what ultimately led his father to publicly disown him. Now, Donald Bren isn't a household name to most Americans, and that's exactly how he likes it. At 93 years old, he's the chairman of the Irvine Company, the developer behind much of Orange County's skyline, along with massive projects in Silicon Valley, San Diego, Chicago, and New York. Irvine controls over 120 million square feet of real estate, entire master plan communities, apartment complexes, office buildings, retail centers, marinas, even golf courses. Owning big commercial real estate projects like this is an extremely lucrative business to be in. I mean, Donald's net worth as of the last report is estimated to be over $18 billion, making him the richest real estate developer in the United States, maybe even the world. Despite this impressive resume though, Donald has always been basically invisible. He doesn't really do interviews. He's not on social media. His public record is almost non-existent. When you're a billionaire like Donald Bren, reputation is everything. It's one of those things where visibility can actually kind of be a liability. While Donald was building his real estate empire, his son David was being raised by his mother Jennifer McKay Gold out in LA. Jennifer and Donald were never married. They had a bit of an unconventional relationship actually. They never even exclusively dated, but they did have 2 kids together, one of them being David. Once they did finally part ways for good, Jennifer fought hard for financial support. In 2003, she sued Donald Bren for $134 million in retroactive child support, claiming that he had shortchanged the children. The case dragged on for years before a jury actually sided with Donald, although at the time he did agree to cover tuition and additional financial support for the kids through their college years. The point of bringing all that up is David's relationship with his father from a very young age was already surrounded in drama and litigation, and by the time he became an adult, he reportedly had very little to no contact with his dad. Even though he and his dad didn't talk much, David Bren still grew up with the last name that carried some serious weight around California. That Bren name opened doors and bought him instant credibility in rooms that most regular people would never even get invited to. David wanted to build something of his own though. He didn't want to just live in the shadow of his dad's success. He wanted to build his own unique business. Several years after he moved out of his mom's house, he started pitching his own projects to potential investors, and he eventually came up with a business idea that was much flashier than just buying and improving real estate, and he called this latest project The Bunker. Like I explained at the start of the video, The Bunker was said to be an ultra-exclusive social club built for car guys, for tech founders, and for athletes. It would be a place that would offer curated dining experiences and private events for networking with the elite. According to investor decks and promotional videos, this social venue would house over $50 million worth of cars. We're talking Ferraris, Bugattis, Lamborghinis, all available for members who paid the club a monthly $14,500 fee. The objective of The Bunker wasn't that it was going to be just a club. It was almost going to be like a secret society for the super rich, and David did everything that he could to sell this dream. He hosted glitzy parties in Beverly Hills mansions, showcased fancy 3D renderings on big screens. He would give these hints about the members who were expressing interest. He dropped names like Mark Cuban, Larry Ellison, August Getty, Petty, but according to later court filings, none of those guys were likely ever even involved. To be honest, on paper, this seemed like a decent business plan, I guess. I mean, if you could convince even just 100 people to pay you $14,500 per month for this social club, you're going to be bringing in $1.5 million per month in gross revenue on this business. David did a good job selling it too. Investors said that he carried himself like a visionary, he dressed the part, and he always had something promising to say if there were perceived delays, because after all, the whole project was supposedly contingent on him completing a $90 million takeover of Mr. C's Beverly Hills Hotel, according to the LA Times. The business was often referred to as the Soho House for car lovers, and if anybody ever got skeptical, it was pretty easy to just casually name drop his father, Donald Bren, to make investors feel a little more comfortable, even though Donald had absolutely nothing to do with this business venture. David might have talked a big game, but behind the curtain and by late 2022, some people started to suspect that there was no actual business being built and there was no club space that was under construction. One of the largest investors was a guy named Tony Chen. Tony believed in David, he believed in the concept of the bunker, and he said he poured a ton of money into the project. One report says as much as $1 million. Court filings later alleged that much of that money that Tony invested went into David's personal expenses, luxury travel, private jets, and high-end rentals under company names that were all tied to the project. In a very sad turn of events, Tony Chen, not long after being convinced that he had lost his entire investment, took his own life, a tragedy that would later become a centerpiece of the civil complaints against David Bren. Even as all of these lawsuits piled up, David tried to maintain this illusion that everything was okay, but by early 2024, that illusion had collapsed as judgments began stacking up with millions of dollars owed to angry investors. All these investors that were filing these lawsuits were pretty much saying the same thing, and that was that David was allegedly misappropriating funds. It's a story that felt eerily similar to what Billy McFarland did with the Fire Festival back in 2017. There was one complaint that accused him of presenting renderings and visuals that had little connection to any actual property under his control. I read that other complaints accused him of defaulting on high-end leases. Plus, he hosted gatherings around Formula One and Louis Vuitton events in West Hollywood, but attendees at these events saw no bunker branding here, and formal partnerships with these companies never materialized. Even David's closest supporters pulled away from the projects. The special events that were promoting it completely stopped, and this is about when the media got involved. By mid-2025, the LA Times, The Sun, and the New York Post had all picked up the story. What was happening is every article about the lawsuits had this photo tying David back to his father, Donald Bren, and like we learned earlier, Donald Bren is not the type of dude who likes to live in the spotlight. I mean, he's an intensely private billionaire who has basically built his entire business on his reputation, and so the last thing he was going to do is let his name be dragged through this mess. Reporters, of course, reached out to the Irvine Company for comment, asking whether the billionaire's empire had any connection to David's failed project. The company declined to speak at first, but as headlines spread and as David's story started gaining traction on social media, that silence finally broke. On October 6, 2025, the Irvine Company released a 12-word statement to the press that read, "We do not have a personal or business relationship with this individual." The message was crystal clear. Donald, referring to his own son, was basically saying, "He's not one of us." And within hours, that line was everywhere. CNBC, Bloomberg, TikTok. The Bren name, which was once associated with power and success, was now showing up next to words like fraud and lawsuit. And with this public statement, Donald Bren made it clear that he was not about to let 60 years worth of work be defined by something that he had no control over. Like I mentioned earlier, the relationship between Donald and his son had already been strained for years. I mean, I saw several reports reports that the last time they talked was in 2010 when David and his sister tried to sue their dad for like $100 million. But it seemed like this whole bunker situation was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, this was the moment when David and his dad's relationship became irreparable. For Donald, I'm guessing this was not a tough decision for him to cut ties because, like I said, his reputation was more important than anything, including the relationship that he could have had with his son. For David, on the other hand, his empire, if you could call it that, and his reputation both have crumbled, at least at this point. The bunker business presumably has little chance of recovery. His investors, of course, still want restitution, and the lawsuits seem to be still unfolding as we speak. To be clear, David has not faced any criminal charges as of the filming of this video, and I'm not qualified to say whether or not those are coming, but he has denied all wrongdoing. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this story ends. I'll see you guys next time.